Good afternoon, NCCF family. Good to see everyone today. I just want to share from a Psalm, chapter 19 and verse 14. This is a verse which has been on my mind lately. Psalm chapter 19 and verse 14. I'll just read it. It says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable or be pleasing in your sight." And I just want to share a few ways practically that verse has been coming alive to me in recent days. And the first area I would say is one way to have thoughts that are pleasing to the Lord is to reject all feelings of fear. And for me, the time fear comes most quickly in my life is on Monday morning, because on Monday morning, I have to turn on my laptop. And when I turn on my laptop, I know I'm going to have a bunch of emails waiting for me and a lot of problems that I need to look at. And the title of my job at work is called a product manager, but I've joked around and said it really should be called problem manager, because that's all I do. I just deal with problems all day long. And it can be very anxious. It can be very fearful for me, especially in those mornings when I think, what do I have to do in the days to come? But one thing that has encouraged me a lot is that even as I think about the problems, I think about what God has done in the past for me. And I can definitely say that even in the past few months, every single problem I faced in the projects at work, God has helped me to solve every single one of those problems. And even the ones that are not solved, I know He's helping me to solve those in the background. So that's one thing that has challenged me. To have a mind that's pleasing to the Lord means saying no to fear. That's the first thing. The second thing which has stood out to me recently is to have a mind that's pleasing to the Lord means to have a good attitude towards my spouse and making sure I never blame her for anything that happens in the house. That's something God has been trying to drill into me for the past, I think, few years, saying no matter what happens in the house, never, ever blame your wife for it, and just encourage her and support her. I think about the story of Adam in Genesis chapter 2. I remember Adam, when he was single, God brought a bunch of animals to him, and he didn't see anything that was suitable for him. And then finally, God brought Eve to Adam. And when he saw Eve, it says in the Living Bible, he said, "This is it." And he was like, "This is the one." He was so excited and he was so happy. And then you flip the page and you look at Genesis chapter 3, and before you know it, he's already blaming his wife for something that has happened. And I look at that story and I chuckle, but at the same time, I look at my own life and I say, Lord, I see a little bit of Adam in my life, where, yes, Crystal, my wife, is someone we had prayed for a long time for, and God answered that prayer. But then as soon as something goes wrong in the house, I see that spirit of Adam coming up in my heart. And so that's one thing God's been teaching me. To please Him in the mind means never blame your wife for anything. And instead, I remember a piece of advice that Brother Zach had shared with me when I was single. He said, Wenhai, as the years go by, grow in wonder and grow in appreciation for your wife. And as you see the things that she does and how she supports you, grow in that wonder of who she is. And so that's the path I want to go down, not to simply not accuse, but beyond that, to grow in wonder for my wife and who she is and the help that she's been to me. And the last thing I'll share is the one area of pleasing the Lord in my words and my thoughts is in my thoughts towards other people, especially in the workplace. And so for me at work, I have to deal with a lot of different groups, and different groups have different opinions and different plans. And it's very easy for me to think, I wish I'd have to deal with these people and have a bad attitude towards them. But one thing I realized that if I have all these problems at work, in order for me to solve it, I need God to help me. But how do I know for sure that God is going to be with me? I know it says He'll never leave me or forsake me, but is there a condition that I need to fulfill to make sure that God is going to be with me? And I just want to share briefly from Philippians chapter 4 real quick. And this is something that has challenged me. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 9. And this is something Paul is saying. He says, "How do you know that the God of peace will be with you?" He says, well, one thing you have to do is that the things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things. And if you practice these things, the God of peace will be with you. Okay, so then what exactly then do I have to do in terms of what did Paul say? Well, the verse right before it talks about our thoughts. And if you read the Living Bible translation of verse 8, one of the things it says is, dwell about the good things in others. And I've often find myself dwelling about the bad things in others, especially when it comes to the workplace. But it says, no, dwell on the good things of others. And that has challenged me. And I said, Lord, if I do that my part, then I know you will be with me. And if you are with me, then all these problems in my project, Lord, you'll help me to solve. So these are just some practical ways that this verse has come alive to me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing to you. Thank you.